964 Pinocchio is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. And that says a lot, because I've seen Funky Forest. "964 Pinocchio" is a heartwarming tale about a malfunctioning sex robot slave that gets thrown out of the sex bot brothel and befriends a woman living in an industrial chicken coop in the underground of Tokyo. Which is a sentence I can't believe I just said. 964 Pinocchio is a prime example of the Japanese cyberpunk horror genre, and I'm gonna tell you guys right now, nobody is better at making these weird-ass movies than the Japanese. The Japanese are like the masters of weirdness. Gee, I wonder why. 964 Pinocchio is extremely bizarre, disorienting, disgusting, and overall very confusing to watch. Mainly because it was shot that way on purpose because it's part of the visual style they were going for, but also because of the fact that it was extremely low budget. Apparently, the budget for this film was so low, they had to use a wheelchair for a dolly. Imagine being so broke you can't even afford a dolly for a dolly shot. Now, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I have no idea what this movie is trying to say, or if it's even trying to say anything. As far as the plot, there's really not much of a story here. It's just one weird-ass thing after another, until the very end. And the ending is just as baffling as the rest of it. This movie is full of scenes of people flipping out, screaming, acting crazy, convulsing, awkward sex scenes, awkward tongue kissing, skipping through the subway, and little to no explanation of what the hell is going on. The opening scene of Pinocchio is a perfect example of the disorienting visual style that this movie has. There are 3 different things going on that intercut with each other. There's 3 people on a bed having a threesome, a nurse walking down a hallway, and a man being experimented on. First, it looks like he's being electrocuted or something. It's hard to tell what exactly this stuff is, but it looks like there's some kind of cylinder on his head with all of these wires sticking out. And it just looks so cheap and janky that you know they just had to make do with some random stuff lying around. And I know that it's supposed to be all shocking and disturbing, but it ends up being unintentionally funny because of the noises this guy is making. He's like, and then they drill a hole in the back of his head, and that is shot very, very cheaply as well, where you don't even see it go into the guy's head. You just see it go through a thin white sheet, and then something oozes out of the back that's supposed to be blood. God knows what they actually used, because it's shot in black and white, so it could have been anything. Ironically, the most disturbing part of this segment is the threesome, because they did not try to make this erotic at all. They look all sweaty and gross, and they're just writhing around in the bed like worms or something.
Oh, what is that? It's just a bunch of worms fucking. I'm gonna throw up.
And all of this is set to some minimalist industrial music playing in the background. Then after all that, they just throw him out onto the street. Apparently, they declared him dysfunctional because he's unable to get an erection. Oh gee, I wonder why he can't get an erection. Maybe it has something to do with the hole you drilled in the back of his head? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so what do I know, right? So the owner of the brothel is this psychotic lesbian or bisexual or something. This movie's very progressive for 1991. I don't know, man. She's robosexual or something because she's banging all her own sex bots out here.
Nice. Nice.
And you know what they say, never get high off your own supply. So she's getting it on with her female sex bot, right?
Nice. Nice.
And this is so not sexy at all. She's just convulsing all over the place. It looks like she's having a seizure. Did they do that on purpose? Like, was she programmed for people with an epilepsy fetish or something?
Nice.
But anyway, the madam of the sex bot brothel calls up the service hotline for the sex bot manufacturing company because she wants to let them know that she is very dissatisfied with their product, which is another thing I can't believe I just said. And not only does she want a bot that can get hard, she demands that they make her a bot that's always hard. Now, this part actually got me really excited because in my mind, I was imagining that they were going to make another Pinocchio, and that was going to be like the twin of the previous Pinocchio, and he was going to be the evil Pinocchio with a raging heart-on, and then they were going to have this ultimate showdown between the impotent Pinocchio and the evil horny Pinocchio. Unfortunately, that never happened, and it was a huge letdown for me. Appearing completely zombified, Pinocchio is out wandering the streets of Tokyo when he sees a woman sitting on the sidewalk, and then he just drops right into her lap. And I don't even know what he's supposed to be doing here, but he looks like a baby trying to figure out how to breastfeed. This woman, whose name is Himiko, brings him back to her underground lair. I don't know how to describe it since the lighting is so bad. It just looks like this tiny dark space, and then the floor is covered with all of this stuff that looks like chicken feathers, so I'm just gonna call it the chicken coop. So she tells him that he can live in the chicken coop, and then she takes him to Costco to take advantage of the free food samples, and then she takes him to the subway station so they can draw a map of Tokyo or something. After surveying the subway station, they go back to the underground chicken coop, and that's when things really go off the rails, because all of the sudden he's covered in ketchup and mustard, and they're both just flipping the fuck out. She completely loses her mind, she runs out of the chicken coop, she starts wandering around the subway acting like a total lunatic in public, and then she starts throwing up, and it really looks like she's throwing up cottage cheese. Like mountains of cottage cheese. I don't know how else to describe it, and I have no idea what else it could be. It just really looks like she's throwing up piles of cottage cheese. And then she starts rolling around in it, which is really fucking gross. Then she goes back to the chicken coop, and for some reason, Pinocchio is laying inside a yellow ring, and I have no idea what that stuff is made out of either, but it looks like that yellow insulation foam. And then I guess she's evil all of a sudden or something because she pours some chemical on him. And I don't know what that chemical is supposed to be either, but it looks like it burns and he's screaming. It's like burning him and he's screaming and there's all of this smoke coming up. And then she takes him to the junkyard and she chains him up like a prisoner. And then she starts dragging him all over town. And there is no explanation for any of this. It's just happening. Himiko alerts the sex bot company as to his whereabouts. And then they try to kill him with some deadly gas, but apparently it just turns him into an anime character because he runs super fast. And he runs all the way to the sex bot factory. And then he punches a hole in the sex bot CEO. And then Pinocchio is standing in a ditch and he's screaming at Himiko to help him, and I don't know why he's asking her for help. She's the one that's been trying to kill him for the whole second half of the movie. But anyway, she tears her face off and she throws it at him, and for some reason her head swells up like a balloon and it looks like it's made out of paper mache. And then Pinocchio decides that he wants to wear the paper mache mask instead, so he rips the whole thing off of her shoulders and he puts it on his head, and a bunch of steam comes out of his ears like a cartoon. And then it's happily ever after, I guess. My honest opinion on Pinocchio is that this movie really suffered for its lack of budget. I got the feeling that the filmmaker, Shozin Fukui, wanted to create this world that was more sci-fi, dystopian, and possibly post-apocalyptic. You could tell he really wanted the movie to have this run-down, nasty, industrial aesthetic, and there are certain scenes where he achieves that. But then all of the scenes that are shot out in public completely ruin that vibe because you can tell it's just normal present day Japan with normal present day Japanese people going about their day. So instead of immersing us in this sci-fi world where people are being kidnapped and turned into sex bots, and the evil sex bot company is like this powerful looming threat in society, it just looks like it's normal present day Japan, and all of these weirdos are just running around acting like lunatics. Unfortunately, this movie falls into the trap that a lot of these super low budget, high concept independent movies fall into, which is that they set up this crazy off the wall premise, but then because of the lack of budget, they fail to execute their idea, and the final product ends up being a chore to sit through because it's just scene after scene of characters wandering around or sitting around in boring rooms having redundant conversations. And in the case of this movie, every scene just goes on and on and on in order to fill the runtime. And I think it's a shame, to be honest, because I really feel for the writer and director here. I mean, the premise of Pinocchio is very interesting, to say the least, and I'm sure this guy had all kinds of wacky shit he wanted to put on screen, but he simply was not able to because he didn't have the money, he didn't have the resources, and ultimately he was unable to realize his dream. His weird, twisted, perverted dream. But, you know, maybe the real Pinocchio was all the cottage cheese we vomited along the way. If I had to recommend 964 Pinocchio, I would only recommend it to people that are used to watching these kind of ultra low budget bizarro productions, or to someone who's a Japanese cinema or Japanese subculture aficionado. Maybe they would be able to appreciate or to interpret this film, because I have no clue how to interpret this movie. I don't even know where to start with this thing. But, you know, if you're like me and you have no context for this stuff at all, but you want to watch it anyway, be my guest. If you want to be baffled and disgusted and subject yourself to headache-inducing noise, 964 Pinocchio is the movie for you.
何を言っているんだ。とにかく撃って売りまくれ。はいくらでもいる。ともかく売りさばけ。